All right. Thank you guys for joining my episode of Dear Lost Mama, episode 10. Here to talk about Bastion Porter's story. We have here Autumn and her husband, Brandon Cohen here. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourselves? Maybe where you're from, your two other children.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we live in North Carolina. We have two living girls, I guess is how you would say it. We have a 5-year-old, Adeline, and a almost 2-year-old at the end of this month, like 4 days, named Colby. So she'll be 2.
Yep. And Bash is our middle son. We had him in California, which we moved in 2021, right after we had Colby. So she was actually born there too.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. So we've been all over.
Adeline was born in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh wow, so they all kind of had their own little state dedicated to them.
Yep.
Super cool. That's awesome. That's a story to tell. How did you come up with the name Bastion? I was just curious. I love the name Bash, the nickname you have.
Man, boy names are hard.
They're so hard.
Oh yeah, I know.
It took really hard. All 9 months to come up with his name.
Really?
Yeah. You loved Felix.
Yeah. So Adeline's name accidentally ended up getting Autumn's initials. Yeah. So she had her initials, and we didn't mean to do that. So then with the second, we're like, well, I guess maybe we'll do mine, which is BPC. So we're like trying to find.
So now we have a
B boy name, and boy names are hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
I liked Felix
the whole time. You liked Felix, but I think we decided we have to go with the initials. We just like
you had already started a trend, so it's like let's continue it.
Yeah, I knew the name Bastion from a video game.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. I think.
Oh, that's crazy. My husband would love that. What video game? Do you remember?
It's called Bastion.
Oh, okay. Go figure.
And the spelling would be from that, because a lot of people do AN, but we do ON.
Yeah, some people do AN for Sebastian, but it's not.
I thought about Sebastian. Yeah, when I heard his name, I was thinking Sebastian as like for short. But yeah, that's interesting. I love it. So we can start wherever you want in your story, beginning, middle, end, wherever you feel comfortable.
Well, we met when I guess it's so when we met, like I never wanted kids. It wasn't in my future.
Yeah.
Autumn did, and so I was like, okay, well, I guess it is in my future now. We tried for a little less than a year for Adeline, and then it was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. I want 100 more. Like, just give me all the babies.
That baby fever.
Yeah, I just wanted more. Like literally, like the first checkup, like the 6-week checkup, the first question I asked the doctor was like, hey, when can we have another? And she's like, you should probably leave that up to your wife. Yeah. So eventually, how old was Adeline? 2?
Yeah, I think she's like a year and a half when we got pregnant with Bash.
So it had been some time, and I really wanted another.
And I think we went for the like 2 years apart is like a really good age gap, and everyone was like, oh, you have a boy and a girl, and the 2-year, they're 2 years apart.
To be fair, you wanted the 2-year age gap. I was happy with having another at like any point.
Immediately.
Any point. Yeah.
And yeah, boy or girl, like it didn't really matter. I was actually more afraid of having a boy because I've just always connected more with girls. I've always been like friends with girls. So I was a little nervous actually to have a boy. Because I'm not like a manly man.
Yeah, and how do you raise a boy properly?
I'm not like a sports guy. So so come, I think, end of November, early December, something like that, we found out that he had some soft markers. 2, 3?
Yeah, 2.
So there was like a calcium buildup on his heart and something
his kidney had extra fluid. And so both of them on their own, not a big deal, but when you see 2, then they start questioning why there are 2 issues. And so that's when they like raised the question of maybe Down syndrome, which we tested, and then he didn't have that. Everything turned back.
So we tested early December, and then we went the day after Christmas of 2019 to find out whether or not he had Down syndrome. So that's when we got the results, and they were basically like, everything's good, but we're still seeing the high risk doctor, right?
Yeah,
just in case. But everything was fine.
Yeah, and I think it was 5 to 7 weeks. I remember counting before he had passed that they kind of said, like, you're off high risk, or you're not, like, there's no red flags anymore, you're okay. And they kept saying that, like, the kidney, the extra liquid in the kidney will usually works its way out, or like it fixes itself, which I almost think it did.
It did.
Yeah. And then the calcium on his heart, I guess a lot of people are born like that, but it was just enough of a little bit of a red flag.
Okay.
So when we had Bash, and he died, I was 37 and a half weeks pregnant. At my 37-week ultrasound, it was perfect and healthy, and he was fine. And we spent most of the time like talking about COVID, like what's going to happen, and we didn't know what was going to happen, so we were just kind of like talking back and forth, and everything was so nonchalant. The children are coming.
Hey.
Okay, I need you to be a big girl and figure it out. Okay,
you can either have some of hers, or you can wait until we're done.
Thank you. Yeah, so all of this was happening during COVID. So while everyone was, trying to figure out like what COVID is,
right,
what it isn't, if it's scary, if it's bad. My work had gone full remote at this point.
Because I had him March 25th. We were told that he had passed March 24th. And so I think back to that ultrasound appointment. So that must have been March 22nd, something like that.
Wow.
Like to give everyone dates.
And so,
okay.
The kick, like he wasn't kicking as much. We were on a walk. She mentioned that like the kicks fell off. And so we were like, well, do we go to the doctors or not? Because it's COVID. Like we don't want to get COVID and then something happens to our baby because we got COVID while bringing to the doctors for nothing.
Right.
But we didn't understand the importance. Like this, like counting kicks is, it's great. But like we didn't understand like quite how important that actually was.
And I think a lot of time, you need to go into the hospital before the kicks stop. So there were kicks. And so, even though I had noticed they felt different or decreased or something, I feel it's like a trigger now when people say the same is happening to them. And I said, don't go before they stop, because I mean, we didn't think,
well, you wouldn't have thought that was what was happening. Yeah. You wouldn't have known.
Yeah. So a lot of his death feels very preventable. But it was hard to know. We didn't know that.
We called the hospital and they're just kind of like,
you can come if you want.
Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, this sounds like,
they didn't seem like
bad or come.
Like, your body. If it doesn't feel like he's kicking, then come in. Like that would have been the thing to say, and then we would have gone, right?
Yeah. So everything felt nonchalant. And then so when we were talking, everything was so slow and like, oh, I don't know. Let's see if things pick up, if he feels a little different. So
interesting. So was that day that the kicks were slower? It was just a normal day. You woke up, did your normal routine, and nothing out of the ordinary. Wow.
Yeah. And then so we went on a walk, and I remember like telling him like, oh, he feels different today. But then I kind of like thought like, why did I just say that out loud? Like I remember just like, I don't know, like it just felt weird. Like, why did I just say that?
Yeah, and I just
maybe he's fine.
I blew it off. Like, I don't know. I mean,
but then we got back from the walk. Yeah, and kind of like made the phone calls, and we're like, okay, let's
something
look into it a little.
Right.
Because with Adeline, there were some times that like she's like, I should drink some juice or something, and then like, she starts kicking, and I'm like, okay, so that's kind of what we like tried doing
with drinks and
get him a little more active.
Something cold. Yeah. So I think we ended up even waiting that whole next day, because that night he kicked really hard. And I was like, oh, if he was like this all day, it would have been fine. So that gave me peace of mind. But now I know those as his last kicks. And so the next day, he wasn't active at all. And there's still a 37-week baby in my belly. So I'm still feeling him, but I'm not realizing that they're not kicks anymore. I just feel that there's a baby in there. And so I thought, okay, well, if tonight is another active night, it's just maybe he's sleeping a lot during the day and active at night.
Right.
And then that night, nothing happened. And I like, now that I'm in this world, like, why wasn't I like frantic? I don't know. But we were like, okay, well, in the morning we'll go and check on him. And even driving there, we thought he was fine. I thought I felt kicks during that time. So
yeah,
it's
right.
It's hard to know. You don't
right
know.
And I don't think,
and then even when we got to the hospital, they were like,
they're kind of irritated we were there.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you go to like your gynecologist office, or did you go straight to the ER? Or
it was
labor and delivery?
Labor and delivery.
Okay.
And we called ahead of time, like, hey, something's up, we're gonna go to you guys.
Yeah.
And they said, okay. So when we got there, they were like, do you have an appointment? And I'm like, well, I called ahead. And they're like, that's not an appointment. I'm like, okay, well, I called ahead.
Yeah. And this was in California?
Yeah.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, and this was so early days COVID that like nobody was wearing masks or anything. Nobody had any idea, right?
Yeah.
But they were
right before like, COVID happened.
Like, it was during. It was like COVID had now.
We just shut down technically that week. Like that.
Yeah, that week was like the shutdown.
The shutdown,
which is why we didn't go in the first place, because we were like, whoa,
you didn't want
hospitals are full of people with COVID.
It's so scary.
Makes sense.
He's about to be, he's full term anyway. He's, I'll go into labor soon enough, like that kind of thought.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, how are you supposed to know? Like, like you said, I mean, you wouldn't have known that those were what was happening, the feelings and sensations you were feeling. So was there, I guess, I don't know, did you choose to do an autopsy or anything like that to see any more detail about what possibly could have happened?
So again, maybe because it was COVID, like there were a lot of services that weren't available, like taking photos or anything that you would expect pre-COVID or maybe like now.
They weren't allowed to send us flowers into the hospital, and
I was the only person that was allowed there at that time. Like nobody else could come visit.
Yeah, so it was even before like the men were not allowed in the room, before they had that rule. So it was great that he could be there. It was very nice.
Yeah, thank goodness.
So the doctors there, so when we first went in and found out there wasn't a heartbeat, like it still bugs me, because the doctor, not the nurse, like the doctor, like looks at us and she tells us there's no heartbeat, and we're just kind of like in shock, like
we're just
really, like, that's crazy. Like, well, I don't know.
We internalize a lot, so we went silent, and I think she was expecting us to scream.
Yeah, and she goes, "Were you expecting this?" And I'm like, "Why would you? No.
Yeah,
why would you say that?
To
we're
happen.
Here because, like, we figured maybe like she would go into labor, like they would have to like, because he's a full term, right? So like, hey, let's get him out."
We looked too calm for her liking.
Anyway, so after the delivery, they mentioned the autopsy, and we're like, well, I mean, what's the point? Like, we just lost our baby, and even though like he's gone and can't feel anything, I'm like, I don't really want him to get like cut up.
A lot of us, a lot of our time with him was we didn't want to move him too much, and we didn't want him to be like our prop, is how we felt. And so a lot of the time he was in the cuddle cot, and we rarely held him. Like maybe like when we first had him and right before we said goodbye was like the most interactions we have had with him.
I walked with him a lot. But
a lot of it, so when it came to the autopsy, first of all, our nurses said usually it comes back normal, so like what's the point, was like everyone was like
she said like 50-50. She's like, there's a 50-50 chance you would find something, but like you know, it's unlikely it'll tell you anything.
Okay.
And she said it was probably the cord, is what she said.
Yeah, because it was wrapped tightly around his neck twice.
Okay.
And we saw a little mark, at least in a picture. I was terrified to look further, or I just thought I was going to have nightmares. And like, now that he's my son, and like, now that I'm past all this, I would have done so much more, but like, how
in the moment, I mean, you're in shock, like, how can you process all of that in that moment?
So we didn't do the autopsy. There was a mark on his neck that I saw, because we didn't like change him or anything. Like it was just kind of, we were like nervous, but then she mentioned something, so I was like, well, now I'm kind of nervous of what I might see.
Who delivered him said the same thing, like the cord around his neck, but it was why we're not like certain that is what happened, as well as my high risk doctor like then had a follow up on the phone with me, and he was like, I mean, that happens all the time, and that normally doesn't like end their life.
So they took some like blood work from Autumn, and they had like some blood work or whatever they do on the placenta. And then a random doctor, because we were like we wanted to figure it out. We talked to a doctor, and she was like, oh, it's this thing. And we're like, oh, this is crazy. I can't remember the word. So we looked it up, and we like tried to figure it out with like that doctor. And she was basically saying that Autumn's body was like fighting the baby, is essentially what she said. And then we talked to the high risk doctor, and he's like, that's extremely unlikely, because like you had a dead baby inside of you. So your body was rejecting it because it was dead. We don't know if that happened before or after, because you didn't get an autopsy. And he was like, and I deliver babies every day with cords wrapped around their neck. And he explained it like like an old school telephone cable that like coils. He's like, you can like do whatever you want with that. You can pull it, you can wrap it around 100 times. You're still going to hear the person on the other side of the phone. Like fluid is still getting through there. It doesn't matter. He's like, it's very unlikely that was it too, but basically we'll never know. So he kind of like debunked the potential options, but like, he wasn't there. And so then we were told not to do an autopsy.
Yes. I don't know. So it's kind of hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to know.
Yeah, that's so conflicting, because I feel like the people that you encountered that day just weren't as empathetic as I would have hoped. I know when my husband and I lost our son, we chose not to do an autopsy as well. We just did not want, our son was in the NICU, and so we didn't want any more done to his body that had already been done. Just like your husband, like Brandon was saying, just that thought of, your baby being, invaded,
touched by other people.
Like he's been through enough. He doesn't
exactly. And that's tough to even think about, putting your baby through that. So I understand the uncertainty with that as well. How has I guess life been, navigating through the grief? I know you've done a lot of work with some nonprofits. You've created a foundation, Still Love Foundation, correct? And the In Memory of You book. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, how that came to be? What kind of started all of it?
So I think a lot of our personality is creating things. We're very we like to do that together. We like to come up with a new creative idea to do. So I think a lot of our grieving, it was gonna be this, we had to start something together. I think for Brandon, he couldn't find what he was looking for when it came to support, which is so funny, because now I feel like I'm in this world and I see support all around us, but it was so hard to find at the moment. I think you just got to know what you're looking for. So he's like, well, I need to it started with wanting to donate cuddle cots.
So initially it was like, so we did have a cuddle cot, which I'm happy, because not everyone gets to have one.
Yes.
So initially I was just like, I want, he's never going to get to do anything in life. That's it. He never had a chance. So I want to do something in his name. And so immediately we called our accountant, and we're like, hey, can we set up a nonprofit? We want to raise some money and get a cuddle cot and maybe do this every year or something. I don't know. And so we did. We raised $5,000 the week that we launched our GoFundMe. We bought a cuddle cot, which is a whole nother disastrous story of a different hospital losing the cuddle cot losing the plaque that had his name on it. And this, we've donated 2 cuddle cots, and it's happened both times to 2 different hospitals in 2 different states.
Oh my goodness.
I think, are they both located by now? Did we figure that out? We just haven't
one of them they say was located, but I don't believe them. And I think they just like took a picture with one they had, because our plaque was not with it. In both hospitals, our plaque that has our son's name is not with the cuddle cot.
Nightmare.
Oh my god.
So we say that in other nonprofits, they've got it down, like they've got it figured out. So I guess we're just not involved enough in the hospitals to kind of know what's going on,
to like track it down and make sure it's where it needs to be. Goodness, 2 though. That's like, what are the odds?
I don't know.
So alongside that, her aunt was making some
greeting cards.
Yeah, she makes like greeting cards and stuff. She like hand
I saw that on your website. The like birthday cards and is that
yeah. So in the beginning, they were all handmade by her aunt. Every single one. But then we got too many. So now we have like 1,500 or something. So like she can't do that anymore.
That's amazing. So 1,500.
Wow. Still Loved is like solely, we send birthday cards to babies gone too soon. So that's what we do. And there's 1,500 and we do it yearly. So that's how many are on our roster right now. And that is Still Loved.
So mamas can like go on your website and sign up and they'll be in there. Or dads. Yeah, mamas and dads, of course. They need those birthday cards. I mean, that's so true though, because sometimes a lot of times the dads get overlooked in it. And I know you're talking about support and looking for that. There's a lot I saw for like, mamas and not too many for guys. I know there's like the Sad Dads Club who I follow, just a few. But I feel like it's really hard on them too, being the guy in it all and everyone perceiving it as, them having to be the strong one. So I'm glad that Brandon's here joining us for this podcast for sure today. So thank you.
For every like realistically, for every like 50 people that reached out to Autumn, there was like 1 person that reached out to me.
Yeah.
That's pretty so insane. Sad. My husband and I were just talking about this recently, actually, because I have some friends that I can talk to, like girlfriends, and we hang out. But my husband, kind of like what Brandon was saying, he doesn't really have anyone he can talk to besides like our therapist, and like it feels lonely. And like I think Autumn, you were saying you don't really realize the community that's out there until like you become a part of it. And that's unfortunate, but would you say you guys grieve similarly, like externally together? Like I know you guys said you're creative, you feel like you like to do things in his honor.
I think we grieve differently, but supporting each other. So we did talk to a therapist a couple months later, and the main thing that I took away from it was her saying, it sounds like you guys don't really need this because you guys already have therapists and each other.
I love that.
Like we are our own support system. So that was like the main thing that I took away. Like we already talked to each other about everything, but it kind of like reaffirmed that like, okay, if I'm having a bad day, it's really important that or if you're having a really bad day, it's very important that I know.
Right.
Or like if I do something, he knows that it's good for me, so he lets me do it. So like for Bash gets like a huge birthday party where we go out on a family adventure and we come home. And this year we had a lot of presents, but that's because we had people send us presents, which was awesome. But we also have a 5-year-old who wanted to pick him out some presents, and she wrapped them all. And then we had cake and stuff. And so it was like over the top. And I think that this year was because my 5-year-old really hosted it. Right. But I think that's something he wouldn't do on his own. Like he would never like have a huge birthday party for Bash. That's just not his way of grieving. It is a lot mine, but then I feel like it grew bigger this year because maybe it was Adeline's way of grieving.
Right, doing it together.
And she loves her brother, and yeah.
I love that. I love how you incorporate Bash into your other children's lives and, make sure that they know their brother. How has that been with, having 2 living children alongside, grieving as well?
So a lot of it, I feel like because I'm in the baby loss community and I have Still Loved and I have the book, and I feel like a lot of my time revolves around Bash. And then I start to feel guilty because my girls are here and they see that, and I'm like, I'm hoping that they don't feel like, you know, their brother is above them or anything. So I try to do things that's just for them. And I like sign up for like, I remember signing up for a trunk or treat and putting us all in costumes, and I did the car and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't have to do that, but I wanted to do that to like show them like, let's get like involved in things because they're young. So there's not a whole lot of school activities and stuff like that yet. So I feel like there has to be a balance because I do a lot for Bash.
I'm a little nervous of like how this will affect them growing up. Like, should we talk to them the way we do, or should we not? Or like, I'm so worried that there's going to be some psychological issue that I don't understand right now, and she's going to be like 16 and like mad that we did or didn't talk about him in a certain way, or like I don't know. So that makes me nervous. But I can pretty confidently say that like if Bastion would have been our first child, like that, I wouldn't have wanted another. Like Adeline definitely like, okay, well, I do have a living child, so I have to do everything I can to make sure that like her life can continue in like the best possible way.
And we're so grateful for our rainbow baby, Coco. They're great together.
Yeah. And Adeline was you 2 years old when Bastion was here? Okay. So not too much. Does she remember a lot from that time? Does she talk about it?
Yes. So when it happened, we told her right away that the baby was no longer in mommy's belly. And it took her, we kind of repeated it to her. So because it was 9 months of kind of getting her excited for him, and then that happened, and she stayed with a friend, so we kind of came home without him. And I mean, from 2 to 5 years old, Bash has been in her life, I mean, daily. She looks for him like in rainbows and stuff like that. She talks to him, she brings him up more than I do. I hope it's good for her. I hope like, she says what she wants to say, and sometimes at school, because she's half day, she will tell me that like she told her friends it's Bash's birthday, or I have a brother Bash. And it's like, it's scary.
Is it like conflicting?
And it's okay.
Right.
Because I don't know, I don't want her to like single herself out either.
But and I think
I love that she loves him.
I do too. I love that you're, involving her and celebrating, Bastion and his life. And, I always get conflicted too with those feelings. I only had my son Noah, and he's not here, and I don't have any living children now. But my husband and I have talked about, if we, have more children, would we want them to know they had a brother? Would we want them to know about, their sibling? And I think it's great that, you allow Bastion to be a part of your family. And she's 5 now, you said? So I don't think she's realizing that or seeing it as like anything negative. I think she's just so happy about it, right?
I don't know.
And she has questions now that she's 5. I think she has more questions now. Like maybe she accepted it the whole time, and now she's just not sure wonder why. And we've had other loss since then. He lost his brother in December, and so she knows about that too.
A year before Bastion, Autumn's grandma died
tragically.
So
oh my goodness,
there's been a lot of it. It's like every year basically there's been something. And my boss, like a year after us, right? 1 year, 2 years, 1 year, had a stillborn as well. So it's just like,
I mean, they're the ones who watched Adeline when we had Bash. So it's just it's a lot.
So it's just like surrounds us. So like we kind of have to talk to her about it, but I don't know how it'll affect her.
And that's valid. I know I didn't realize how, I mean, I guess that's like the naive part of me before, losing a child, of how often it happens or how big this community is, like how often stillbirth or infant loss or SIDS happens to people. There's just so many stories. And I think if I were to think in my like friend group and the people that I know, I think I know zero friends who've had like infant loss or stillbirth, maybe like one or two miscarriages. But it's, now that I'm in it, I've made so many friends who have, been through a loss, and it's just crazy to think that before, experiencing it ourselves, that there's a whole other like population of people experiencing this with us. So that's just crazy to think. Your youngest one, your rainbow baby, Coco.
Yeah,
I love that name. So how was that? I know after Bash it must have been difficult. Was that something that took some time to like adjust to, like just having another child after Bash?
Yeah. So there's a lot about Coco. So we actually, a week after we had Bash, we decided we'll have another one. We wanted to give Adeline a living sibling.
Yeah.
And and we weren't sure if that was gonna happen, but we tried. So we named her Colby. We did a unisex name, and that was kind of putting hope that to a better future, I guess. I don't know.
We were up late talking every night trying to like cope with what had happened. And so we had an A baby and a B baby. So we're like, okay, we have to have a C baby. Let's figure out all of the C unisex names. There weren't a lot. And
so we landed on
Colby, which could have been boy or girl. And then her middle name is Ray, which would be spelled different depending on whether she was a boy or girl. But our thought was like, it doesn't matter what the gender is. We just want to have a healthy baby.
A healthy living baby.
Literally couldn't care less.
Right.
So we decided that, a week later. And then our high risk doctor told us to wait, at least 6 months. Well, he was like, ideally like 18 months. Right?
And then, but
that's like the time frame they tell everyone, 18 months.
But he's like, I understand. So like, if you can wait at least 6 months, that would be good. But like, try to wait at least that. We waited 5 months.
No, we accidentally got pregnant at 5 months postpartum, which I don't recommend. And then the pregnancy was really hard because I was still freshly grieving.
Right.
And I was terrified I was going to lose her. Only close friends and family knew about the pregnancy. And then we're in COVID. So like I was inside all the time. And
I was working from home. Autumn was afraid to get out of bed.
Basically. I would try for the day and I'm like, oh, I feel sick. And then
Right.
It was hard to get out of bed.
She already has bad pregnancies anyways. Definitely felt like a single dad, like the whole time she was pregnant with Colby. It was like me and Adeline against the world. Autumn was on her own. And
I remember picking up food while I was pregnant with Coco, and I tripped on the sidewalk and I fell on my knees, and I was in my first trimester. And I think I cried there, but then I came home and told the story and I was just bawling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that did it. Like, I no longer have her. And I probably didn't even know the gender, but I was so scared the entire time.
Right.
And when I could feel her kicks, I would scare myself that I haven't felt enough, It was a scary
that paranoia, I'm sure. Like just worrying. Yeah.
And then we got to the hospital for labor, and they started her on Pitocin, but they hadn't checked where Colby's head was.
So
and her head was not down.
My water broke at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. So we went in, and they're so slow about it. They're like, well, we'll check if it's really your water. And I'm like, okay, it is, but okay. And then they had me.
Same hospital, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you getting these doctors?
I know. And then they're like, okay. And then I started like gushing. They're like, yeah, you're here.
You're in labor.
But then, yeah, they started me.
So they started her on Pitocin, and that takes a long time. So I went home to like get some to let out the dogs and to bring something to Adeline, who was at a different friend's house. And then I get a call from Autumn that they hadn't checked where her head was. Her back, her
she
spine.
Was transverse. It's what it's called. So her spine was down.
Her spine was where her head should be. So they're like, it's going to be a C-section.
C-section.
So I had to drive like 35 minutes back to the hospital because now they're like
emergency C-section.
It's not, and they're like, it's not emergency, but it's like, let's do it right now.
Okay.
But
I literally got to the hospital. I put on a gown. I went in the room.
And I remember them saying like, did they do the ultrasound on you today? And I'm like, I couldn't remember because I had started going 3 times a week to check on her.
Okay.
And they suggested that because I was high risk because of BASH.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't remember. And she was head down at one of the last ones.
Yeah.
But I like couldn't remember, and they didn't. It was great. It was easy.
Good.
She was looking back a really great pregnancy. I was just terrified.
Of course.
Every time I wanted her to kick, she would kick. And I felt like she was very like in tune with me.
We were at the hospital a lot because it's like, I don't know if this feels normal. So I would,
let's go and be safe.
We would drive to the hospital.
Yeah.
She would go in by herself and cry because it's the same place that we had BASH.
Yeah.
I would play with Adeline at the park.
That time I was alone. Yeah. And then after having her, and now I have a newborn, that was just as scary because, my last time with the baby was BASH. And so I would I would check on her obsessively. And,
of course.
And then if she's too still, that was like triggering. And I would look to see if she's breathing. And then I started telling myself, like, you're trying to see if she's dead. Like, that's what you're trying to do.
Right.
And I think once I realized that, I kind of try to like ease up on it a little because it was all my fears. She was fine. And, what happens will happen. I don't think, if you're doing all the safe stuff, if you.
Yeah. And you're just driving yourself crazy, just like day and night thinking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Was there a point where like it kind of lessened a little bit, or are you?
I think now, I think after age 1 or even like the 18 months, and now that she's almost 2, being a toddler,
older.
Now it seems like she's more like Adeline, like memories of Adeline when she was that age, instead of being a baby and memories
reminding you of BASH. Yeah.
I think so. I feel like she's a little more stable and sturdy, and a toddler age is a lot easier than baby age.
Right.
In some senses.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I can see how, you look at her as a baby and it reminds you of, baby BASH. So I know we talked a little bit about the Still Loved Foundation. Can we talk a little bit about your amazing book? So I want to, let our viewers know a little bit about this because I ordered a copy about a week or 2 ago, and I just love that, you created something for bereaved parents to have and to like journal and keep memory of, their babies, because a lot of ones that I've seen have to do with like memories of, the first day at kindergarten, or like graduation, or like your favorite trip together. And, some of us don't have those memories. And so I really like all the work you put in with this book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about like, I guess, how did this come to be?
I have no idea.
So she has had a lot of like projects here after we moved to North Carolina, and we have Colby and trying to figure out life after loss, right?
Of course.
So she has a garden, which got a little insane, a little out of control. and there were like a lot of crafts, Etsy projects, random things. I don't think there was like any one particular thing where she was like, I'm gonna write this baby book.
Yeah. And I'm the kind of person who puts a lot of ideas into my notes on my phone, and I just have like, you can scroll forever of ideas. And I've said before, like, no one like stopped me. So I just like kept going with this book. Yeah, there was nothing to like stop it at any point. Whereas in like, I have like restaurant ideas, and there's a lot of things to stop me from owning a restaurant.
Oh gosh.
So it just kind of fit and it worked.
Yeah.
So I saw it through to the end, and I'm proud of it. Definitely. I'm so glad that nothing stopped it.
Yeah. When she showed me like early versions, it was like pretty clear that it was a good idea. And like, yeah, I wish we would have had this, because like, and at this point, like, there were like, it doesn't even matter at this point if something exists, because we didn't know about it, right? So like, we're like, let's make it, and let's like market it and try to get people to know about this thing, because I would have loved to have a book like this.
Absolutely.
And then of course, a lot of work went into making it like super inclusive, because, and like, you should be able to be a guy and fill this out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really easy for even like just normal baby books for it to be like something about the mom and the baby or something.
Yeah,
or
just
like,
assume that
the mom is the one filling it out, or assume that it's a mom and a dad, and not two moms or two dads, or a single mom or a grandma, or I don't know, whatever, right? Like, so a lot of work went into making it like super inclusive. Yeah, we kind of just tried to go back 2-3 years and like, okay, what was this like for us? What was that like for us?
Right.
Yeah.
And I really like the layout of it and the chapters you put into it. I think it's all great. So you can buy this book on Amazon. I saw you have it on Amazon, and then your website as well.
Amazon and Etsy. I do it on Etsy just so I can really quality control it. Because Amazon, you don't know what they're sending out. I have no like hand in that. So, but you can get to it from our website.
Okay, gotcha. I think I ordered mine off Amazon. It got to me. Okay. Yeah. So
and
it worked
good.
out.
It's all good.
It's good. Yeah, I got the hard copy because I wanted it to last me forever.
We do make more money off of Etsy. So.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, I wish I would have known that.
Well, I don't think it matters. We definitely wanted it on Amazon to help because we had so much trouble finding things. Coco wants to say hi.
Hi.
We had you can get a little bit of our head.
Yeah.
We had so much trouble finding resources and stuff that like we wanted it on Amazon, especially if like grandparents can be like, what kind of gift can I give them?
Oh yeah.
It's there. It's easy to find, hopefully. I mean, right now I don't feel like it's the easiest to find, but maybe it'll get there.
We'll figure that out. We'll get it out there because I think it'll be very helpful. Because I don't think there's a book like that out there. For parents
and for anyone who doesn't really know what the book is, it's just the Guided Baby Memorial Journal. And it basically has like 3 parts where it's your pregnancy, the arrival of baby, and then life after loss. And it's definitely dedicated to your baby for you to write. There's short questions and there's longer questions. There's checklists. So if you feel like you're scared to write in it right away, you can read through it, and there's easier things. And just like putting baby stats in your baby's name, just to start. Because I know a lot of people it's a griefy book, so you have to go into it with when you're ready for it.
I think I'm going to start with a checklist because I know I've had it sitting here for about a week, but I do want to get it started because I think it's great to kind of keep something that has all those memories and documented in one place. So I'm excited for it. But yeah, you've done so much work, after Bash with the book and the foundation and the cots and everything that you guys have done. Do you feel like that's helped you guys to grieve and honor Bash's memory and life.
Creating a legacy for him. I think, because in the book, it's got his little handprints, and I feel like that's so cool that he's in the book.
I love that. Yeah. Those are his actual handprints and footprints.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
It really does feel like his legacy is like here to live on for sure. I love everything I do like writing Bash's mama on it. So it really does help with grief. Like this is how I grieve.
Right.
So it does help. It's nice being in the community too.
Right. And I think by you doing this, you're helping a lot of other people grieve as well. And, you know, giving us support and resources. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and your story and everything that you've done provides so much, I don't know, hope, and there's like light around it. And so I love everything that you're doing. So thank you guys so much for joining, you know, Dear Lost Mama. Is there any like last words of hope or words of advice or anything that you'd like our viewers to know one last time?
I feel like, I hope like people don't look at us and they think, oh, we're not even like close to that, because I feel like there's so many people that aren't like us. Please don't ever think like, oh, I would never write a book out of this or like do the nonprofit. Like I feel like this is the way we grieve, and we are, you know, lucky enough that things have went well. And I feel I just never want anyone to think like they're less, or because
absolutely, like you don't have to create a foundation.
Who writes a book? I don't know. Yeah, you don't have to,
like you don't have to, like everyone grieves differently, absolutely. And like you don't have to do this and this to prove that
their baby is, you know, your baby's so loved. And that's why I love doing the birthday cards, because we get to celebrate your baby. And you know, don't think you're less. I just have that in my head.
Right. I love that. I think that's a wonderful way to end it. I'm definitely going to put some links for Still Loved and In Memory of You. Is it In Memory of You book.com?
Baby Lost Book.
Baby Lost Book.
Because usually, yes.
Babylostbook.com.
Yes.
Babylostbook.com. And I will link everything in with this video so that anyone who wants to check it out can also look on the website and check out your book on Etsy, not Amazon. Don't make my mistake. But yeah,
it's fine.
Thank you so much, Autumn and Brandon, for taking time out of your day to kind of join our podcast and share your story and all that you've done. I appreciate so much. I hope to have you guys back on and we can, you know, do some more chatting about life after loss and, you know, how grief has been as we progress forward in our new norm. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.